Joining us now via Skype from the United Kingdom is CEO founder, AI Foundation, a UK-based charity set out to reduce the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. We have Ronke Adiagbo with us, joining us right now. Ronke, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now. A lot of people have said that the House of Reps, what they're coming up with now is a good way in the right direction, but it is long overdue. It should have come even long before now. What do you say?
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me. Absolutely. It's too little, too late, in my opinion. I was under the impression we have the Children's Act in Nigeria. So what's wrong with that act? Because in Nigeria, if you don't put legislation to policies, then we're going to have problem. We really need a policy that will be sanctionable to make sure parents send their kids to school. So it's too little, too late. But it's applauded because it's a step in the right direction.
All right, specifically now, looking at the suggestion that youth corps members should be deployed to schools now to enhance the education there, that system is already operating. NYSC members already, get sent to schools and all that. But if you would look in this light, what further suggestion would you bring to the table in this regard?
I mean, getting NYSC members to stay on and become teachers, that's one aspect of the problem. The key problem we have now is that we've got over 13 million kids on the street and not in the classrooms. The kids need to be in the classrooms for the NYSC people to teach them in the first place. So I think the first preoccupation should be, how do we get these 13.2 million kids off the street and into the classroom? Then we can start talking about getting NYSC to actually teach them.
All right, Ronke, the government initiated the school feeding program as a way of encouraging children to stay in school and even come to school. How effective has that been as a tool to get students from on the streets to the schools?
I think that's also a step in the right direction. It's really, really welcomed initiative, because some of the reasons these kids don't go to school is because of poverty, because they can't feed. So if they know there's food in the school, that would be like an incentive to pull them into going to school. But actually, the first important thing is to actually get parents to take responsibility for sending their kids to school, and not because of the food they're going to get there. Also, there's a correlation between having good food in your stomach and actually achieving, because if you're hungry and you even go to school, then you cannot learn. So that's a welcome development, and I'll encourage the government to continue do it and continue policing it. Because it's one thing to start the strategy, it's one thing to actually make sure it's all encompassing and it cascades to the grassroots.
All right, Ronke Adiagbo, thank you very much. We hope we can get to talk to you again. Thanks a lot for your contributions on the program.
Joining us now via Skype from London is CEO and founder, AI Foundation, a UK-based charity set up to reduce the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. We have Ronke Adiagbo with us on Skype right now. Ronke, good morning. It's good to have you join me right now. Now, exactly. At the heart of the challenge of out-of-school children is the issue of poverty. And one says that instead of throwing monies at it, that the real issues of poverty should be addressed, which are social economic issues, maybe from the political side of things, should be addressed, and then the out-of-school children issue would take care of itself. What do you say?
What we're trying to do here is we are trying to stop the poverty of cycle. Because if we allow these kids to remain on the street, that means when they grow up, they will become poor, and possibly their children will become poor. So it's important that we address this issue head-on at this point in time. Whilst I appreciate poverty is one of the key reasons why we have loads of kids on the streets, whatever has happened to free education? Because when I was growing up in Nigeria, I had free education. So what's happened to that? Because if education is free, then whether you are from a poor family or not, you will still get good education, which will mean economic empowerment. So when you grow up, you will start working and you start earning, and you will come out of that poverty cycle.
All right, and talking about this free education, many states would state that the education is largely free, especially at the primary school level, at that very first stage of education. But then parents don't think so. There's also the issue of when the kids get to school, though they may be free, you go back with bills to pay, with monies to send to the school. How do you deal with that?
The government needs to put their money where their mouth is. I wasn't too impressed at the amount of budget allocated to education in the 2020 budget. I was mere 47 billion. That's not enough. The government needs to put more money in education to make sure the schools are well resourced and to make sure parents, even as I said, if they are poor, they can still send their kids to school and they won't be burdened with bills to buy uniform or to buy shoes and things like that. Now, the government also needs to partner with NGOs like IA Foundation. We were in Nigeria last month, going out to schools, actually giving out resources to kids to make sure they can buy things, uniforms, bags, and things like that. So if the government partners with other foundations like IA Foundation, we will actually start addressing the issue of poverty slowly but surely. My organization is based in the UK. What we are doing is we are bringing resources actually from the UK to the Nigerian educational sector. So the government of the day actually should not look a gift horse in the mouth, should encourage organizations like mine to bring these resources into Nigeria to be able to ensure kids can go to school irrespective of their disadvantaged background.
All right, Ronke, let me stay with you on the effort you're making. What has been the level of engagement between you and the government of Nigeria, maybe state or the federal government so far, or the Ministry of Education, depending on which agency is involved? Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely, and that's a very good question. The reason why I had to set up this foundation is because I work in the education sector in the UK and I'm an education advocate. Now, whenever I come to Nigeria, I find loads of kids on the street when they are meant to be in school. This is alien to me because it's not allowed in the UK. So that's what actually made me set up this foundation. And we've tried to engage the government at the federal level. We've sent our business plan to them, how we plan to support them. We haven't had any positive response from the federal level. So what we've done is to engage state governments. So last month, as I said, we were in Nigeria. We are actually working in Ogun State, Nasarawa State, and in Lagos State in terms of giving resources and being able to encourage kids to get off the street. Now, one thing where we need help from the government of the day is legislation. Because what we have what we call children wardens who go on the street and start picking up kids that are meant to be in school. But if there's no legislation backing it up, if you go and meet a kid on the street, they'll think you want to kidnap that kid. But if we don't have the legal backing to allow us to do that, then we cannot make much progress. So we really need legislation to back what we are doing and for the federal government to actually partner with NGOs like mine.
All right, thank you very much, Ronke Adiagbo, for your time, and thanks for what you're doing.
And joining us now via Skype from the United Kingdom is CEO, founder of IA Foundation. It's a UK-based charity set up to reduce the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us at this time. Now, so, well, looking at this scourge of out of children who are not in school specifically, it's nice to hear you stand for not just issues of education in Lagos, but you've talked about your work in Nasarawa State. That gives you a sense of what it means out there. But looking at the Al-majinri trend now, what do you think will be the perfect way now? Do you subscribe to incorporating modern education system into those who opt for the Al-majinri kind of education?
Again, very good question. One has to be very careful, to be very sensitive to cultural vagaries, and we need to respect that. I'm not an authority on Al-majinri education, so I won't be able to comment on that. But what I do know is that every child needs access to good Western education. Now, if there is a methodology of combining our Al-majinri system with the Western education, then that's fine. But every child needs to get education. That's the key fundamental issue. It's a fundamental human right.
All right, Ronke, talk to us about the impact of what you're doing so far. About how many children have you impacted so far in your years of trying to get the children from the streets to schools?
Right. Recently, we visited Nasarawa State. Nasarawa State seems to be very receptive to people these days, I would say. We actually went to an IDP camp in Nasarawa State, where we have loads of kids who have no access to education. So we went there with teachers and books and actually tried to impact some knowledge on them rather than them wallowing away in the ID camp without education. Now, it's very difficult to sustain that because we require security to go into these IDP camps, and it's very hard to get to regions. This is where we need the help of the government of the day. We need security to be able to penetrate further. So we can only go as far as we can based on our resources. But if we get more support on the security side, we could even go further into the north as far as Borno. So we need help in that area. Last month, we went to Ogun State. We went to 3 secondary schools in particular. We went to donate books, money, to make sure these kids have resources to ensure no obstacle stops them from getting good education. As I said, we also have children wardens on the street in Lagos and in Ogun State, trying to interrogate kids to ask them why they are not in school during school hours, and try and take them to their parents and actually see how we can help to provide resources to make sure their kids can go to school. So those are some of the things we've been doing so far. We've also been trying to pay JAM funds and WAEC funds for students from deprived backgrounds. Recently, we actually went to Olabisi Onabanjo University to set up an endowment for the best accountancy students to make sure they can strive to achieve good quality education and make them better accountants in the workplace. So those are a few examples of the things we've been doing.
Interesting. And how do you view all these projects now and its relevance, its acceptability in the society? Should these initiatives now be broadened, or from your experiences, how sustainable do you think this will be to the Nigerian people who really need them?
Yeah, without a doubt, what we are doing is quite important, and the individuals who are being impacted, they do appreciate it. But in my opinion, it doesn't go far enough, because I know there's lots of foundations like mine dotted all over the place in the country. We need to be coordinated, to come under one umbrella, and to be able to work collaboratively with the government of the day. So the government of the day needs to engage us to make sure we are all pulling in the same direction, and we are not all going off at a tangent and doing different things, irrespective of the fact that the children and the parents appreciate it. So one of the things we're going to suggest to the government of the day is to set up a unit within the federal educational setup and at the state level, a unit that is responsible solely for bringing down children out of school. So you can call it out of school unit or whatever. And we need to be monitoring the number of students out of school to see how much progress we are making. Because this 13.2 million figure everybody is talking about, this was 2018 information by UNESCO. Why should UNESCO be the one telling us the number of children we got out of school? Why can't we have our own unit which actually monitors the number of children we have out of school and manage that in terms of bringing it down? Also, at the federal level, when they have their FEC meetings and at the state meeting, that should be a standing agenda item to monitor the drop in the number of out-of-school children. So these are things we will suggest to the government to actually implement, to make sure we are monitoring it and making sure we are making the necessary impacts.
All right. Thank you very much, Ronke Diagbo, for your time on the program.